The second largest league in the country. And I will be moderating this debate. The league is a trusted organization that does the hands-on work to safeguard democracies. We never endorse candidates, but we are strongly involved in shaping the issues and keeping our community strong. And for this debate, we're going to have a timer with an enormous stop sign, so it shouldn't be an issue. And we're going to have 2-minute opening and closing statements, 1-minute answers, and then 30-second rebuttals. So we'll do it in pairs. So it would be like Tom has 1 minute, and then Pete a minute, and then Tom 30-second rebuttal, and then we'll switch to Brainy a minute, Carolyn a minute, and Brainy 30 seconds, and we'll switch the order around. And we'll also be taking questions from the audience. If you have a question, just write it down and bring it up to us, and we'll try to do mostly your questions. So we'll start off with the opening statements. We'll start right here.
We start right here and go down.
Does that work?
That works for me. Is this on?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Great. Well, I'm Tom McMacken, and I've been your city commissioner for the past 6 years. I currently serve on the Chamber of Commerce Membership Committee, the Winter Park Autumn Arts Festival Committee, and I am also on the Orange County Community Action Board. Prior to that, I chaired 4 city boards: Planning and Zoning, Historic Preservation, the Public Art Advisory Board, and the Tree Preservation Board. And in my spare time, I'm also a landscape architect with Little John Engineering. You know, I'm running for a 3rd term because these are pretty exciting times in our city, and I want to keep that good stuff going. We're currently involved in a citywide visioning process, and I hope everybody here has taken part in that. And if you haven't, there's plenty of opportunities coming forward to do that. Our comprehensive plan is coming up for review. And believe it or not, we have a potential new library on the ballot. I'm sure we'll have some questions about that. Building permits, occupancy rates, and home values are at all-time highs. Our Keep Winter Park Beautiful and Sustainability Board, along with our pedestrian and bicycle board, are leading the city to a much more sustainable and pedestrian-friendly city. Rollins College and Florida Hospital continue to invest in their world-class educational and healthcare facilities. There's so many things going on that I'm proud of over the last 6 years, and I'd like to keep that going. And I thank you all for being here and looking forward to the questions.
Hello, I'm Pete Weldon, running against Mr. McMacken for seat number 4. Thank you all for coming. I believe there's a better way to govern in Winter Park. Fran and I moved here in 1989, and both of our children were born at the Winter Park Memorial Hospital and raised here. My resume is detailed on votepeteweldon.com. In summary, I have an MBA from Duke. I worked for Johnson & Johnson for 14 years, the last several of which I was Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of a freestanding Johnson & Johnson operating company. I was then recruited to be the President and CEO of a venture capital-backed startup here in Winter Park, and that's what brought us here. When my relationship with that startup ended, we had a big decision to make because our first child had just been born. And that decision, and the reason that we're both so committed to Winter Park, is that we decided to forgo my corporate career and raise our family here. And I went out and started a new career as an investment advisor. I went through the Chartered Financial Analyst program, and I earned that certification in the 1990s. I have been on 3 city boards since 2008 and involved in the city deeply. I started on the Code Enforcement Board. I'm currently on both the Tree Preservation Board and the Planning and Zoning Board. Those who have read my blog, winterparkperspective.org, that I've been writing since 2008, I think know of my passion for Winter Park, my insistence on integrity, and for good governance. I'm an independent voice focused on protecting the character of Winter Park, your safety, and your interests. I have been endorsed by 4 former mayors of Winter Park exactly because I have demonstrated a commitment and the good judgment to represent you. Thanks for coming. I look forward to the questions today.
Well, there's no rebuttal.
I did
Changing the rules on us, come on.
I did too get an MBA.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Thank you for hosting us, for being here. My name is Lambrini Macheski, and I'm the daughter of immigrants. I love being in a library. Actually, I spent a lot of time there as a kid because my parents came from Greece, and Greek was actually my first language. So I learned English, in a library a lot. And so thank you. This is a wonderful place to be. I'm the first person to actually graduate college from my family. I got a bachelor's in business with a degree in accounting. I believe in the mantra, leave things better than you found them. My parents taught me that. They came to America as a land of opportunity. And so that's ingrained really in everything that I do. I'm one of the owners of Cocina 214, which is just a few blocks away from here. We employ 60 people. We opened on a side street next to an alley. And we were told that we were a nothing business on a nothing street. But we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary this year. So I would beg to differ. We have amazing employees, again, 60 of them, and I'm proud to be part of this community. And that's really how I got involved in the city, is doing a streetscape on Welborn, on the street that the restaurant is at. We needed improvements, and I collaborated with business owners, and we contributed to get that streetscape done. So the street's now better because of it. We have 2 new businesses on our street that just celebrated their 1-year anniversary, which I'm very proud for them, The Grove and the Writer's Block Bookstore. I serve on several local boards, and I'm also a Girl Scout troop leader. I have a 9-year-old daughter. She's come to many of these with me. She's at school today, so she's not here, but it's about leading by example. And I look at her, and I want her to have a better life than I had. My parents did that for me, and I want to do that for her and for all of Winter Park. I have 5 mayors that have endorsed me and are supporting me, and I'd love your support too. Thank you.
I'm height challenged. Excuse me, I'm height challenged, so if you want me to stand up, I'll be happy to do that. But I have served as your commissioner now for the past 7 years, and I truly understand Winter Park. I understand Winter Park beyond Park Avenue. I understand the businesses on Lee Road and their concerns, on the Loma and their concerns, the residents in neighborhoods, all the way from Lakeside out to the Four Seasons area. And I see my friends here. Thank you for coming from Four Seasons. But during that time, I have learned a lot about Winter Park, a lot about budgeting, a lot about your needs and our infrastructure, and how that infrastructure is meeting those needs in places where it is not and can be improved. I am very proud of my service as your city commissioner. For the last 7 years, we have increased reserves. We have held your taxes at the same level as they were in 2010, and that was through some of the most challenging financial times we've seen in a long time. Prior to my time on the commission, I also served on planning and zoning. Planning and zoning is really important because that's where you learn about land use. And land use decisions are absolutely the most important to preserving the character of this city and to protecting your quality of life as an individual resident. I also served on the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. Prior to that, in addition to that, I've been on the Florida League of Cities Board of Directors. I received an award last year from them for my advocacy in Tallahassee. And just yesterday, I received the endorsement from the Winter Park Maitland Observer, which is just awesome. I could not be more proud. I also have endorsements from dozens of small businessmen, past leaders of our city, past leaders of our community, and I'm very proud to have served you. Thank you.
Okay, since we are in the library, and many of you will be coming back to the library to vote, it seems like that's an appropriate place to start. There's a referendum on the ballot that will allow up to $30 million in bonds to build the library and event center near Martin Luther King Park. Is that better? Can you hear?
A little bit louder.
How's that? Okay.
If you can't hear us,
Yes, definitely. Now, this is the fourth of and final public debate. And in the last 3 debates, I've heard all 4 of you say that it's important for the voters to have a chance to vote on the library. But that seems kind of vague to me. I think the voters deserve to know where you really stand on the library bond issue. So do you personally support or oppose the library referendum? And how about if we start with you, Carolyn?
Sure. I happen to be one of those people that have been a bit vague on this, and I'll tell you why. 50% of the people that are voting for me support the library. 50% don't. What I support is democracy. I support you deciding whether you want to move the library and build a new library, or whether you want to do something on the existing site. To me, the issue isn't the library. We must have a renovated library and deserve that. The issue is, what do we do with the land, this land? And I say we do not sell this land.
So on the referendum, it doesn't talk about what's going to happen to the current site. So to me, that's not something that we can decide. It's not on the ballot, and the city hasn't decided that. And it's up to the city to do that. For the library, obviously, I think it's an incredible opportunity. I support the library. I go to the library. My daughter goes to the library. It's not just about books. It's about something in our community that becomes that third base. I think the chamber talks about that third base. You know, a community place where you can have learning, you can have interactions. You know, if you look at some of the things they're proposing, there's lots of opportunities for growth and elevating our community to a different level. This building, they looked at renovating it, and they've had many people involved in the process for many years, actually. And they came back and had said that, you know, it would cost, I think, $13 million just to renovate this, and the space would still be too small. So I look at it as an opportunity, and you know, if you look at the Civic Center and the library, both of those need renovations. If we do it together, it actually saves us money in the long run. I have the big stop sign.
Sorry. It's okay. Yeah, it does come back.
I am going to directly answer the question by not answering it. I think it's very important for every citizen to study both sides of the library. There are PACs that have been set up on both sides of the issue. There are videos out there. And I think it's real important that we make this a community decision. My role in the decision is, as your next commissioner, what happens if it is approved and what happens if it isn't approved. And if it is approved, I can tell you that I will apply my 40 years of high-level business experience to make sure that your dollars are spent wisely and that we receive the quality and the character and the substance of services that we all want in our new library and civic center combination. If it is not passed by the voters, I will be supporting the library advocates and finding other solutions to upgrading our library.
You know, one of the things about being a commissioner is at the end of the discussion, you actually have to vote, yes or no. And my vote for the library is yes. I've looked at the blogs, I've gone through, I've attended all the meetings that I could when the library expansion or the new library was being discussed. I believe it's going to be an incredible asset for our city. The technology leap, I always compare it to a rotary phone to our new cell phones. It's that kind of quantum leap to a new library. And the term library, I don't even know if that adequately applies to what this new facility is going to be. So I am in support of the new library, of the referendum, and I do hope that it passes.
If any of you ever want to rebuttal, just give me the signal. Okay. And at the League of Women Voters, we consider forums like these to be one of the best ways for voters to learn about candidates. And at the second debate last week, it was sponsored by the Winter Park Voice and took place at the community center. And two of the candidates decided not to attend that debate. So why did you not attend the debate, and is that a disservice to the voters? So we'll start with Pete.
First, I am attending, I think, a total of 6 or 7 debates throughout the process, 3 of them public and another 3 or 4 that are places like the Mayflower and Westminster, sorry, it skipped my mind. I did not attend because I was trying to set an example of transparency for the city. I have had conversations with the people who run Winter Park Voice in our blogs back and forth for several years about trying to distinguish between good governance and transparency. And I don't think the Winter Park Voice, in taking anonymous contributions while they promote good governance, is in fact good governance.
Do I?
Oh, sorry, didn't
Yeah.
Well, you did attend.
Oh, all right, we're gonna let everybody at least comment.
Yes, and I was there, and I believe the League of Women Voters was there as well. And you know, I take that back to being a commissioner. You have to act on items in front of you, and you don't get your choice to see who comes up and speaks to you and what items come before you. It's part of that, to me, is part of the good governance part. We have a diverse city. Every debate we've been to is in one way or shape. This is the library debate. It has certain questions about the library. We went to Westminster. It had certain questions that they were concerned about. We went to the chamber. There were certain questions the business community is concerned about. Each one has its own interest. That's a heavy sigh. So, can we reset the clock? So no, I was there, took part in that, and I guess I believe actions speak louder than words. I have 30 seconds to rebut.
Yes.
Yes, I would encourage those concerned about this issue to go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/vote Pete Weldon, search for Winter Park Voice Debate, and you'll find out all the details on my position on this issue. Thank you.
Is it my turn? Okay.
It's confused with the order. You know, it was one of the most difficult decisions I had to make. And I also have a letter that's posted on my, actually on my website, lynnbrady.com, that explains all the details as to why I decided not to go. I'm available to everyone who wants to talk, but there were several things that came up that showed the biasness of the voice, and I don't want to give energy to that. We're talking about transparency. We're talking about character. We're talking about being ethical, being honest. Those are important attributes, and I don't want to give energy to, oh, I've got the sign, to anything other than that. Thank you.
I was at the debate, and I can tell you that as a commissioner, I often have to do things that make me uncomfortable. Often, every day, I live outside my comfort zone. But as a leader, you must show up. You must show up, and you must address the people who have come to talk to you. There was a packed house, I don't know, 50, 60, 100 people. There were a lot of people who came out to hear from the candidates. It was the only debate we held on the historic west side of this community. And it was moderated by the League of Women Voters. So we have managed to insult the West Side residents. We have managed to insult the League of Women Voters, to question the integrity of The Voice magazine, which has served this community amazingly well as insulted all of the people who came to hear. So I would say, as a commissioner, show up.
I can do that.
If you want to.
How many times
You
do
don't,
we get to do that?
you don't.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to rebut.
Yeah, just, you would have 30 seconds
Yeah.
if you want it. If you don't want it, that's fine. We'd have more questions.
You know, so again, I have a letter that details all of the information, all of the reasons behind it, with all of the facts. I encourage you all to look at it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, one of the other ways that voters learn about candidates is through their advertising. both through the candidates advertising and the opponents advertising. So what do you consider to be negative campaigning? And specifically, do you consider pointing out someone's voting record a negative mailer? And are you comfortable with everything that you've said in your mailers? So we'll start with you, Carolyn.
I am extremely comfortable that I have actually carried out a top-rate campaign. We have said nothing negative about my opponent, and we could have. But Winter Park is tired of dirty politics. My opponent changed her political affiliation and associated herself with a very high-profile consultant who is determined to have you question my character. And I would love to talk at length about the grossly distorted record that she has presented to you. And that saddens me because that's not Winter Park. I also can put those things on my website, I assume. She's going to show you a flyer that I raised my salary voted to raise my salary 500% 4 times. The truth of the matter is that a charter review committee recommended we be able to change the salary. Our residents voted 67% that we raise the salary. And the commission put in place a salary that was less
Can you
than
wrap it up?
the average salary in Central Florida.
And I make $184.
You'll get a 30 seconds.
Yeah,
in
you get a rebuttal, you get a rebuttal. I'm about honesty, and you talk about transparency, and I am not printing anything that is not true. The record is negative, so therefore people think it's negative, and I'm sorry, but that's just, so it's not a distortion. So let's just, this one mailer, I cite all my sources, and the sources are the commission meetings, the meeting minutes. There, and you can get those, you can access those on cityofwinterpark.org. If you look up the commission, all that information's there, it's all fact. The reason I called this into question in particular is again about character. Why would someone ask for a raise when city employees, city staff was on a freeze for 3 years?
I definitely do. I
We're
definitely
gonna
do.
be, how many times?
Just one, just
Okay.
rebuttal, and then we'll switch over.
So we know.
The charter committee recommended that we allow the commissioners to adjust the salary. It had not been adjusted since 1953. The paycheck is $184 per month. We voted on one pay raise, not 4 times. You just vote numerous times. I also made motions that said the pay raise would come into effect after all city
Will the
commissioners.
owner of a blue Honda car, license plate EQT-T34, please come to the circulation desk? Thank you.
I want you to know that when that came up,
You're on
Just
stop.
take a few more seconds. Go ahead.
When that came up, I made the motion that it not go into effect until after the city employees had their pay raise. I made the motion that it be spread out over 3 years, and I made the motion that no one that was there would benefit, and that's who I am. If we
Okay,
want diversity on that commission,
come back to
you
this.
need to pay at least for the childcare.
this is a very contentious issue, so we'll come back to it, but
Well,
Right
can I
now-
rebut? Do I have an opportunity?
No.
No, okay.
now we're switching over.
Well, we just.
Let's see,
wait.
Tom and I have been talking to each other for 6 years, and I think he will acknowledge we have a very respectful relationship. And I told him when we started the campaign that I was going to make sure that this campaign was not about us, but about policy. And I've tried to distinguish that in my mailers as clearly as I can based on Tom's vote. So I consider everything I've done fair and within the bounds of trying to give you an opportunity to compare the policy priorities and judgment of the two of us. In effect, we are giving you a choice, and that didn't have to be the case. So I ask you to look carefully at our policy differences and make your judgment on that basis.
I stand very proudly on my 6 years of service in this community, and I've expressed that in the mailers that I've sent out. I think we're all intelligent individuals in here, and you can judge the validity of the materials that come out. I leave that up to you. I do say that I did receive a standing endorsement from the Observer, and one of the reasons was because of my record. And I stand on that. My mailers have expressed that, and I leave it up to you to decide between the two of us which one is putting forth the better record.
Okay,
No rebuttal.
okay. This is, I can tell this is something that people are very passionate about. In 2010, Carolyn and Tom both voted for a budget that cut insurance benefits for employees. And then right after that, both voted to give themselves significant raises. The salary was $200 per month, and they voted to raise it to $1,000 a month, but it's still $200 a month. That vote was later repealed. But what's significant is that this vote took place at a time when there was a freeze on salary raises for city employees. So I guess the question is if you could just please comment on that decision to vote for a salary increase at the same time there was a freeze on all other city employees. So we'll start with you, Tom.
I really have to admit I don't remember the insurance cut. I'd have to go back and look at that. I don't recall that. But I do recall my vote on the salary increase. And as Carolyn had indicated earlier, the salary's been $184.70 a month since 1953. That was the year I was born. And I give up my age, I admit it. And to raise that, to a reasonable level, I thought was pertinent, and I voted that way. The rest of the commission did not feel that way, and they said no, and that's fine. We haven't brought that up since that time. That was voted on, it was over and done with, and we've gone forth since then. So that's where I stood at the time. I still think it's worthy, but we did not feel that way at the time, and I let it go.
In the interest of transparency, I want the audience to know that I was born in 1949. The issue is not the money, it's not the amount of money. It's the judgment that I disagree with. I don't agree. At the time that budget was being approved, here is a litany of the things that are in that budget. Eliminate longevity bonuses for all employees. Decrease city subsidy for health insurance. Cut city subsidy for dental insurance in half. Modify benefits to police and fire pensions to create additional savings of at least $270,000. Reduce general employee pension to 7% for all employees. Freeze 3 vacant positions in the police department. Boom, boom, boom. Reduce overtime in the fire department by $112,000. And the budget contains no merit increases for employees for the second straight year and no cost of living increases for the third year. In other words, your city commission voted to ask our employees to share the pain of the recession with you. And I thought, just as a matter of judgment, not as a matter of dollars, that the issue was, okay, don't give yourself a pay increase, please, but if you do, make sure it's after we relieve the burdens on our own employees.
And as Commissioner Cooper mentioned, the motion was that no sitting commissioner would benefit from that pay raise.
That is not true.
That's not true.
That's the motion that I made.
That's the motion that she made.
She made that motion, and you get a chance to read it.
Okay,
Who's
and
there for the top?
I'll turn it over to them.
I think it's fair if we start with you, Carolyn.
I have to say, isn't it sad that we're going back 10 years when there is so much going on in Winter Park today? But I'm going to tell you, can I see that
Yeah.
lovely, nasty little mailer? 500% pay raise 4 times. Gracious goodness, what a distortion of the facts. The Charter Committee recommended it. We looked at it. I appreciate the issue with the insurance coverage. Pete and I actually agree on many things about improving our pensions. He and I probably would be very much on the same page advocating for that. All of this discussion of things that were reduced doesn't take into effect the fact that this pay raise didn't take effect immediately. Even without my motions, it did not take effect immediately. But with my motions, it wouldn't apply to the people who were there. It would be phased in over 3 years, and it would come into place when the employees received their raise. Now, I'm sorry that I didn't receive support for that, but the pay raise is critical if you want diversity on this board. It should not be a board of the privileged.
So the issue I have with it is, then you should have campaigned on that, but you didn't. You didn't campaign and ask people and say that, the pay is $184. You never did that. You waited until you got elected to then vote for that pay increase. And it did go into effect in the next budget. It did go into effect in the next budget when you were a commissioner, and then it was repealed. So it's very simple. For me, it's just about character. Who would ask for a pay raise when the city's staff was on a freeze and their benefits had been reduced? That's what I have an issue with. And as a leader, the city employees are the people that do the majority of work here. They're the ones, there's 500 of them, that take care of our city, that make it look as beautiful as it is for all of us to enjoy, that make it safe, that make it pretty, all those things. And as a leader, we should take care of them first.
I do have to respond to that. Your question, I believe, was why didn't I campaign that I wanted a pay raise? Because I didn't. That's why. I didn't campaign that I wanted a pay raise because I did not. And today, do not. But I do believe that there are many people, younger people, less privileged people economically, that would serve you well and should have that opportunity. And I will say it's very difficult just to take care of your family and take care of your job and do this job. And it's even more difficult if you can't afford to pay the babysitter. I dare say we worked 650 hours last year in just meetings. That's without preparation.
Okay, your time is up. Okay, in terms of politics and governance type of issues, what makes you angry? Carolyn.
Ugly campaigns. That's it. Nothing else makes me angry. I have the patience to deal with the democratic process. And it takes patience because you need to bring everyone to the table. When my integrity is questioned, I get angry. When my children have to read distortions of the truth about me, I get angry. When someone confronts me with something that I have not done, I get angry. But you don't see it because that's what leaders do.
So I get angry when elected officials, when they make decisions on our city's behalf, on our behalf, on the businesses in the community, when they act without high moral regard or ethical character.
No, that's
No, I do. That was the question. And for me, the people that we elect have a responsibility. They have a responsibility to our city, to everybody that touches that city, to the people that visit it, to the business owners, to the residents, to everyone that's part of it, to the employees. And accepting political campaign donations from vendors that are currently bidding for a waste contract that's 7 years, multi-million dollars, I think is unethical. And yes, that makes me upset. That makes me upset.
You certainly have to let me respond. Understand that the campaign is ongoing. Understand that I have a treasurer and people who take care of my reports. Understand that our contract for our waste service is a bid contract, which means committees of people that do not include me, based on a selection criteria that I do not develop, will make the recommendation who gets that contract. But more importantly, I have to let you know that there was no RFP on the street when the check came to me. It was put into the bank. I didn't do that. It was put into the bank. It was put onto my report.
Can you wrap it up?
Yeah, but this is important. She's questioning my
But we
integrity.
can come back to this. But-
Don't do it.
Wrap it up. I'll
Okay.
get back to you on that.
Finish it up.
Well, the fact of the, okay.
No, we'll, we can revisit, I wasn't gonna revisit this issue, but we can.
Yeah, I do.
Let them answer the question, what makes you angry, and we can revisit that.
You want to re-ask the question at this point?
Sure. Talk about whatever you want. Okay, in terms of politics and governance, what makes you angry?
Am I next or is Tom?
I think, have you started?
I'll volunteer. You know, it isn't politics because politics is politics, and it's been that way since our country was founded. What makes me mad is that the fact that we've gotten to a point, and it's governed by the sunshine laws, that the commissioners can't sit and talk to each other on a one-on-one basis. And that is such a roadblock to our solving city problems. And Mayor Larry's here in the front row, and I give him credit. When he was elected, he took the broad step to reach out to every one of the commissioners and say, I want to sit down and talk. And we did. And we were chastised for that. And that made me mad. It was an honest effort to open up communication. I agreed to that. And the phone calls and the emails and the editorials just jumped all over us. That's what makes me mad, when you have decent people trying to do the right job for the city, and all the different adversaries get in the way of that happening. That to me is a disservice to our city.
There is nothing that stops us as elected officials, when I am your commissioner, from arranging noticed meetings with any other commissioner and having conversations that are available to the public. I would encourage every elected official to take advantage of that. What makes me angry, I really don't get angry at people or at circumstances. I get frustrated, and I think you can see the output of that frustration in the work I do, trying to document the background materials on winterparkperspective.org on those policy issues that have animated me. And that includes some things that pertain to what I think is a good policy decision for Winter Park. I don't think dog fees were a good thing to vote on. I don't think reducing the percentage to allow a neighborhood to force 49% of their neighbors into an historic district is a good decision, and other issues. So I'm very animated and very interested, not angry at all.
Okay, before we get back to Waste Pro, there's sort of a preliminary question. This is a very quick question. Have you received donations from businesses that are currently doing business with the city, either as a vendor or a vendor who's involved in an RFP, or a NOD, which is a notice of disposal? So we'll just go down the line real quick. Start with Tom. Okay.
I haven't checked every single one of my donations to see who is working with the city. I'm currently not a commissioner, so there's no direct conflict in that regard. But I want to note that every one of us has accepted money from people with financial interest in Winter Park. And I think we have to kind of all grow up a little bit in terms of accusing people of being less than forthcoming when they take money from people who are simply trying to promote a conversation about their interests. So I'm not too concerned about it, frankly.
I'm unaware if I have taken anything from, I don't believe that I have. I've gone back through most of my financial records, and I share, you find us in agreement on this one. Again, I don't believe that I have on any occasion, and I agree with Pete in the context that people in Winter Park invest in campaigns, and that's part of the political process.
Since I was the one whose integrity was questioned, I did go back and look at my campaign contributions and sent them to city staff, because the truth of the matter is, as a commissioner, you don't know every single company that's doing business with the city. So I've had the staff look at it, and no one came back. What is important, though, is, because, and I hate to waste time talking about this, there's so much I want to tell you about Winter Park. but I'm going to respond. The Waste Pro check was mailed to me after the RFP was removed off of the ballot, off the table. That check was deposited into the bank by my treasurer. That's what you have to do immediately when you get a check. When I saw that report, I called the company, and they have since received my reimbursement and deposited it in their account. And yet, that has been used to discredit my character. Gracious goodness, I taught Sunday school class in this town for 12 years. I'm just telling you, my character is not a question. And for someone to insult my integrity, please, please, understand the difference in politics and reality.
So, as a business owner, we have lots of vendors. And I was taught just in college, right out of college, I got hired by EDS. And one of the first things that they taught us was you never take money from a vendor. And there's reasons for that. And first is because then you're bought, and then you owe them something. So it's not a good business practice. So with the waste contract, I mean, all the commissioners know, you know, that and you sat on it, you returned it after Channel 9 did a news story on it. You had it for over a month. So you knew, I mean, you've worked at Lockheed Martin, right? What was your title? Contract? Right, so you know contracts. I mean, you're an expert in that. So, yeah. So it just, at the end of the day, it's a 7-year contract. And for anyone bidding, we as a city and as taxpayers and as users of waste, we get our trash picked up and we pay for that. Don't we want the best services at the best price? Well, now the process has been tainted. The process has been tainted, and that's the issue I have. No, I don't think I've received any. I think to your original question, my opponent has, but I haven't.
Okay. Okay, we kind of covered this, but one thing that I'm still unsure of about the Waste Pro is, Carolyn, will you be voting on that with when the bid comes up, or will you not?
What is important that you understand is a check was mailed to me, and it was legal, and I saw the check, and I returned it, and I didn't have to. So that's number one. There will be a selection committee with a very, very well-defined criteria for selection. They will judge all of the people. The only way I can not vote on the final recommendation is if I would benefit personally and financially. And of course I will not. And to be honest with you, if every one of you in this room gave me a check, I might not know it for 2 or 3 weeks. Honestly, I have to tell you that because it goes to other people and to the bank and to reports.
You're welcome to comment on it if you
Yeah,
want
but
to.
the
if
commission
you
and the
don't
mayor
have to.
do vote on that. They will vote. They will get a recommendation, but at the end of the day, they have a vote, and it's a 7-year, multi-million-dollar contract. So it's just bad judgment, in my opinion.
What's your offer?
Well, my offer is ethics reform. I don't think.
Okay, do you want to comment on this, or you're good? Okay, we're going to go to some questions from the audience. Okay, sexual orientation is not currently included in the city's anti-discrimination policies. In keeping with many other cities in the state and county, how can this be changed so Winter Park is more inclusive? How about if we start with you,
I
Libby?
didn't hear the first part of the question.
Sexual orientation is currently not included in the city's anti-discrimination policy. In keeping with many other cities and states in the country, how can this be changed so Winter Park is more inclusive?
Yeah, we should be more inclusive. I mean, we're a community that we should love all of our people, regardless of. And we have a restaurant, and I mean ours is up to date. So I think that's something that we just look into and change. It's 2016.
I actually believe, and I look out to my communications guy out there, but Doesn't the Winter Park policy already include recognition? I think it does. I've been told that it did. So forgive me, I have been told by the city
Just going
manager.
with-
Okay, I have been told by the city, it does not. Is that what you're saying to me? Doesn't or doesn't? Okay. It does not.
What's your question?
Oh, well, what I have been told by the city manager is that our policies do include.
It does not include sexual orientation.
It does not. Okay, thank you very much. That's something new to me. I did not know that. I would certainly be willing to review that if it comes before the commission. I assume it should. I thought it had.
You want to take?
I certainly have no problem with it. I would like to think that we have state guidelines, if not federal laws, that cover this issue. It's not an issue that I've studied in any great depth, but I think this is a community that should be welcoming of everyone regardless of their values, or their sexual orientation, or their hairdo.
Or the color of their hair. I think that's no, if that's an oversight, that's an easy one to take care of. That's merely a motion to the city commission based on recommendations from the city manager. I certainly share that we as a city have always been inclusive, and if that's not formalized in a city vote, then we should do that as part of the commission.
Okay, well, recognizing how important Park Avenue and a thriving business community are to our city, what measures will you take to ensure that the voices of all citizens receive equal weight, even if they don't own or operate a business? So we'll start with you, Tom.
I will acknowledge the importance of Park Avenue because that is what people feel is synonymous with Winter. One of the things they feel is synonymous with Winter Park. But I think one of the hallmarks of my 6 years on the dais is that the voices of the citizens that have come forward have always been recognized, and we go to great lengths to do that. And I am very proud of the fact that I have reached out to citizens and they have contacted me. And I really feel that as a commission and as a city government itself, that we go the extra mile to communicate with our citizens. So I'm very proud of the fact that we do that and that I have over the last 6 years.
If I have the direction of the question right, it's why do we pay so much attention to Park Avenue and how are the actual residents of Winter Park dealt with or something?
I'll read it again.
Yeah.
While recognizing how important Park Avenue and a thriving business community are to our city, what measures will you take to ensure that the voices of all citizens receive equal weight, even if they don't own or operate a business?
Oh, well, this town is 28,000 citizens. It's not several hundred businesses on Park Avenue. You're the people who vote. There are, 20,000 registered voters, give or take, and hopefully at least 10,000 of you will vote on the 15th of March, given the presidential primary. This town is run for you. It's not run for Park Avenue. One of the things that has struck me in my conversations around the city has been how the people at the perimeter don't feel, in some cases, like they're part of Winter Park. And I think that's wrong. I had a lady the other day out near the Winter Park Pines Golf Course, and part of that is actually Winter Park, and a lovely neighborhood. She said, why don't we have the street signs with the peacocks on them? And I called downtown and I found out that they put those street signs together as they have time. And I said, how do you determine where they go? And he said, well, we start downtown and we work out. And I said, well, why don't we start at the perimeter and work back sometime? Okay, so I think I get the gist of the question, and that's my attitude in terms of how I would deal with it.
I have no rebuttal.
Your turn, Carolyn.
Look right over there, who's.
I went first, so I think.
We'll just let our moderator tell us.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Okay.
Sorry.
First of all, Park Avenue and the Central Business District is vital to this town. And I think whether you're a resident that lives off Lee Road or whether you happen to live on Palmer, you understand that. Because that's what sets the value of your home. That's what makes us a community of distinction. So of course we have to take care of Park Avenue. But I'm proud to tell you that I have endorsements from businesses along Lee Road. I have supporters along Fairbanks. I have businesses along Orange Avenue because I go and I listen to their concerns and I help them with their issues. So I understand Winter Park is bigger, but a little bit unlike Pete, I think we do have to give special attention to Park Avenue because quite frankly, your property, no matter how far away you live, would not be worth as much if you did not live near Park Avenue. So for me, it's not one or the other. It's one and the other. And I worked very hard to make sure you have the strongest notification laws of most any city around. You receive city notices about things that are getting ready to happen. I spend hundreds of hours researching data and putting together emails so that I can send them to you so you know what's going on. I try to teach people about the website and what's available. I want to empower you, regardless of where you live, to be part of the government. Thank you.
So Carolyn and I actually agree on this. I was past president of the Park Avenue Merchants Association. I'm still the current vice president, so obviously Park Avenue is very important to me. But you know, it's not the only place that's important. All of Winter Park is important. And I think the question asked about residents too. It didn't just ask about businesses. Is that correct?
Recognizing how important Park Avenue and a thriving business community are to our city, what measures will you take to ensure that the voices of all citizens receive equal weight, even if they don't own or operate a business?
Okay, so all citizens, not business owners, and not, yeah. So as I'm walking, that's actually how I twisted my ankle. I sprained it. That's why I'm wearing tennis shoes. But, you know, there are a lot of concerns, people living all around Winter Park. And although we do send out notices, the city does, you know, there is still a lack of community involvement. You know, there are places that want sidewalks, communities, neighborhoods in Winter Park that don't have sidewalks, that want them. They don't have adequate street lights. So how do we get those comments in? You know, not everyone can make a commission meeting on a Monday at 3:30. They can't. There's people who can't. So what can we do? And Craig, I'd love to get with Craig and Clarissa on, you know, additional communication measures and hearing that from the people in Winter Park, because there is a lack right now. There is a lack, and their voices are not being heard. Thank you.
Can I rebut?
Yeah.
I just want to speak on behalf of our communications department. We have an amazing outreach to the community. Amazing. You get e-blast constantly. You can get text. We have Facebook. We open the microphone every commission meeting for you to come and talk about things that are not on the agenda. This city goes way above and beyond with the number of meetings we have, with the number of notifications. You can be proud to be here and proud of our communications department. Thank you.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job. Do I not get to rebut?
No.
No, sorry.
Okay, what are 2 to 3 of your main concerns regarding Winter Park that you feel need more attention because of a lack of urgency now? We'll start with you, Maureen. Because of a lack of urgency now. What are 2 to 3 of your main concerns regarding Winter Park that you feel need more attention because of a lack of urgency now?
I'll just answer the first part of the question about not lack of urgency, but crime. I think crime is something that everyone in our community is worried about. You know, we just had a shooting a couple nights ago. 2 people died in our community. But there's things we can do proactively that haven't really been done yet. Police decoy cars. You know, I live off Glen Ridge and Winter Park Road and Chelton Circle. We've had lots of burglaries in that neighborhood, and after about a string of 6, we had a police decoy car parked around, and it was moved around the neighborhood, and we haven't had burglaries since then. It works. Workforce housing. I know my opponent voted against including that in the affordable housing ordinance in August and September, but workforce housing would enable our police officers to live in our community. We have CRA funds where we could help sponsor that. So workforce housing, it would be wonderful to have police officers living in our community to be that extra set of eyes and ears for us. And I have a sign.
She get it?
Go ahead.
You asked which pieces of infrastructure I thought needed more attention because they are not high visibility today. That's the way I understand the question. My answer to that would be, I would like to see more connectivity with Sunrail. I want it to be something that the community can use without having to worry about parking. I would like to see a circulator bus that goes from Winter Park Village to Park Avenue to New England Avenue. I would like to see zoning put in place so that when we develop New England Avenue, it has retail on the first floor so that our guests will want to walk to New England Avenue. I want the retail in Hannibal Square to survive. And if we have residential from the first floor to the top, it's going to be more difficult for the retail. I would also very much like to see police in our neighborhoods. I'm opposed to workforce affordable housing because it means wood frame, high density apartments. Winter Park doesn't need any more of that. I would rather incentivize our police officers through housing allowances so that they can participate in market rate housing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll go to Tom.
I share the concern about our police department, and part of that concern is in this last budget cycle, I made the motion to unfreeze 2 of the police positions. Fortunately, that passed. Unfortunately, it passed 3-2, which said a lot about the people that voted against it. Being a landscape architect, I think one of the things, while not urgent, but certainly has been overlooked because of our budget situation over the last few years, has been our capital improvement programs for our parks. And like Parks says, it all starts in parks, and they need improvement. It's not they don't have the urgency of police or fire or roadways or sewer, but parks are where our children play, parks are where we recreate, and I really believe that going forward, we need to be investing more in our park system.
I'm sure there are lots of projects that I would support. But I think from the standpoint of what is urgent, I have kind of 3 things. One is I think we have to make a larger commitment to electric undergrounding so that there's no risk that it won't be complete. That's key to the strategic future of Winter Park in my mind. And following that up with the reforestation of our street trees, those 2 programs need to be prioritized. And we have to have a long-term commitment to make those things happen as soon as possible. The other thing I would say is urgent in my mind is that we've had a very strong financial recovery, and the city's tax base has grown substantially, and while the millage rate has remained constant, our tax collections have gone up almost $4 million a year in the past several years. And I think we need to do a better job of planning how we use that money.
It's not a rebuttal, but it's just an add-on. The last 2 budget sessions, I presented motions that were passed to add an additional $100,000 a year to our reforestation program. And as a landscape architect, that one's near and dear to my heart. We are moving forward. We're also on schedule with our electric, and it's a complicated process. And we have laid out a long-term program to get all our undergrounding taken care of, and we met our obligations every year for that.
Okay, if the library bond referendum passes, we know where the money will come from for the library. If the referendum fails, given that our library has a pressing need for renovation and space, how will you address the many deficiencies in the current building, and where would that money come from? I think it's your turn.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I touched on, I think, when I answered the question about the referendum, and that is that if the referendum should not pass, I will support the library interest in the city to make sure that we address our needs to renovate this building, or there may be other alternatives. Obviously, we have a unique resource in controlling what happens to our own library. Not being part of the Orange County Library System is an asset to Winter Park. And should the library referendum not pass, I will be a supporter of reinvesting in the library through other means.
I think it was mentioned earlier that redoing this library is somewhere in the neighborhood of a $13 million proposition. And those are dollars that we do not currently have allocated toward anything in our budget. So that would most likely either have to come back as a bond issue if we wanted to do it all at one time, or be prorated over a number of years to continue to reinvest in this building. And that's really why I'm hoping that the bond issue does pass, so that we don't have to go through that.
I think Lambrini's turn, I think.
Yes, what Tom said. But also, this current building, it isn't safe. God forbid someone has a heart attack upstairs, you can't even fit a gurney up to get them out. So there's so many constraints in this building. So we would have to do another, I think, bond referendum, because I think just to do, again, this building, just to renovate it, would be $13 million. And like Tom said, we don't have the money to do that now. So I would see probably another bond referendum.
I absolutely would support doing whatever we needed to do, whether we determined that it was renovation, or if we wanted to build new on this site. If that bond referendum were to fail, I am 100% behind this library. I have 5 children. 3 of them grew up learning responsibility in this library. Tom made them put labels in the backs of books for their overdue fine. So I do appreciate the library, and it's morphing into something new. So don't let technology influence you. The truth of the matter is now technology is a vehicle for people to communicate and for people to share information. It's that knowledge sharing that's so vital to Winter Park. And that's what our library gives us the place for. I am 100% behind this library. And should that referendum fail, I will be your greatest advocate in getting the necessary funding, whether through bonds or through reallocation. Thank you.
Now, I'd like to stay for another 30 minutes, but really our time is up. So we're going to go to closing statements. So we started down here for opening statements, so how about if we start with you, Carolyn, for closing statements?
So what's in it for you? What's in it for you? I have the right experience. Director of Contracts for Lockheed, Financial Manager for DoD, on the Board of Directors for the Florida League of Cities. I understand municipal government. I've served as your city commissioner for 7 years. I've served on the Comprehensive Plan Task Force. I've served on planning and zoning. I understand land use. And land use impacts your quality of life more than anything else at all. I have the right education. I have a master's in systems management. I have a master's in guidance and counseling, which often comes in very handy. But I can tell you, I understand government. I've been working for you in Tallahassee with the League of Cities, representing 400 cities in Tallahassee on their advocacy team. I understand municipalities. I raised 3 of my 5 children in this town. I understand what it's like to be a mother. I understand what it's like to be a professional. And I understand what it's like to balance those 2 things. I'm at a point in my life where I have the time and I have proven that I have the commitment to serve you. Winter Park has been termed by National Geographic Traveler a gracious town. A gracious town, an oasis in the midst of helter-skelter development in Central Florida. I will protect the character of this town. I am fearless. I will vote no when it's necessary, and yes when it's appropriate. I am the best candidate. There is no comparison. I understand Winter Park far beyond Park Avenue. And I hope that on March 15th, you will agree. Thank you.
I'm gonna gimp up here, sorry. From talking to people, I actually decided to run because I had many city leaders and people in our community ask me to run. And they had asked me for a couple of years. Because I get things done. I'm not much of a talker, I'm a doer. I'm the person behind the scenes that can collaborate with others, that will listen to all sides. Left side, right side, middle. I think that's what's important, and that's what I bring to the table. Going back to my parents, leave things better than you found them. That's ingrained in everything that I do, and that's what I want to do for our community and continue to do for the people of Winter Park. I ask for your support. I would love your vote on March 15th, or if you have your absentee ballot, even before that. But also, again, elected leaders, they have a responsibility to the city that they represent, to the people in it, to the businesses in it. And I take that responsibility very seriously. And I hope that you agree that I'm the best candidate. Thank you.
Wish I had more than 2 minutes. My wife Fran tells me I'm a crusader, and she threatens to buy me a helmet and a shield. But she draws the line at a horse that tells me that I can have all the cars I want. I think that we've engaged in some regulatory overreach in Winter Park, and that's what I said at the beginning, that I think there's a better way to govern. I've tried to point out some of those policy differences between myself and my opponent that I disagree with, that I think are overbearing on all of us as citizens and residents. I trust you, the citizens, to make the best decisions for your home and your family. My priority is to embrace the interests of each Winter Park resident, not to impose the desires or values or tastes of any one Winter Park special interest group on you. It is your energy and effort that makes Winter Park great. As your commissioner, I will fight attempts to selectively and unfairly impose on you, and I will support your efforts to raise your families and live your lives in privacy with the assurance your local government is on your side. On the details, you can count on me to embrace true and voluntary historic preservation, to maintain the most effective police and fire rescue departments, to support equal service levels in every neighborhood in Winter Park, to prevent out-of-scale redevelopment, to stay the course on the city's electric undergrounding, to replenish and manage our street tree canopy in every neighborhood, and as a former vice president and chief financial officer of a Johnson & Johnson operating company with over 40 years of management, financial, and investment experience, I will insist upon disciplined and professional city planning and budgeting and fiscal management. I have pursued a commitment to better government and a better Winter Park for the past 10 years as an involved citizen and volunteer. And you can count on me to do the same as your commissioner. There is a better way to govern in Winter Park, and that's founded in trusting you, not in telling you what to do. You can trust me to protect the character of Winter Park, to protect your person and property, and to protect your interests as a resident and homeowner. I ask for your support and for your vote on March 15th.
It's been said that it takes courage to stand up to your adversaries, but that it takes even more courage to stand up to your friends. And over the last 6 years, I've had to do that. In their endorsement of me, the Observer noted that it's no secret that I've been the swing vote on many important issues in the city. And that's because I do not represent any ideology or any one group, but all 28,000 citizens in the city of Winter Park. Because of that, over the past 6 years, I've been the one commissioner that's been invited to both sides of the table because of their trust in me when important issues have been discussed in the city and important decisions have had to be made. I want to keep that going for you. I want to keep working for you as the citizens of Winter Park. And as my sign said, and as the endorsement in the Observer said the other day, let's keep Tom on March 15th. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry we didn't have time to answer all